Hey guys, so I'm digging more trench here. Went from the road crossing you see straight up ahead there where there's snow in the trench. Clean most of it out with the ditching bucket, my big ditching bucket right there. And now I'm trenching back here, and there's going to be a transformer going in somewhere about here. And so I had to put some steps in so the guys can get in and out. Before it snowed, I was just doing it as a ramp. I've only got these chisel teeth, even though I had requested paddle teeth because they kind of make a nice flat surface. So tried making the guys some nice steps to get in and out here. So I hope it works okay for them, because our kind of mud here, it gets fucking slippery in the winter time, and it's a pain in the ass to get in and out. So it's going to shave this wall off a little bit here. It's less than 4 feet deep, so I don't have to slope it back. But I did a little bit of sloping over at the road crossing because it was more like 5 or 6 feet deep, because the contractor that was doing site prep work, Moorland Construction, does such shitty work, and they buried the pipes too deep. They seem to put almost every pipe at a different grade at some of these crossings, and makes it a pain in the ass to excavate them up when we need to do our crossings. They buried all this pit run in here. It's full of fucking rocks. I'm not supposed to have any rocks around gas lines and fiber optic lines, especially fiber. That's easy to break. Gas is a little more resilient because it's polyethylene pipe. Just walking along my trench line that you see there. I don't have very much more to dig. He doesn't want to go too far, because otherwise if the guy's got to pound stakes in, you have to pound stakes in to hold the gas lines and stuff, then the ground freezes and it's a real pain in the ass to try and pound them through. Even though with the company I'm working for, one of the managers or general foreman, whatever the fuck they call his rank, has been pushing get lots opened up. But the thing is, if we open it all up, then we get a snowstorm like we had this weekend, and it all fills up with snow, and it takes them several days to shovel it all out, because you can't do it with the hoe because there's already cable in there. I toss all my rocks to the side here, and we can, or at least the ones I can sort out, we can put them in a pile with a rubber tire backhoe, tractor backhoe loader, whatever you want to call it. I always either push my lumps back in, or I'll just sweep them off to the side to the spoil pile. But because there's a transformer going in here, I leave an area open so that I can go and dig it from the side with my big ditching bucket there. The ground isn't frozen quite yet, so I'm still able to dig it with a smooth edge ditching bucket there, or cleanup bucket. You see, I always drag the bottom of the bucket through the bottom of the trench here, so it leaves a smooth or relatively smooth surface so people don't trip, and allows proper placement of cables and pipes, etc., etc. I always dig it a little bit wider than it really needs to be, because then if it does slough in at all, it's really only sloughed in on the one side there. If it were up to me, I would slope this all properly like a pipeline ditch, but they don't want me to do that, so I make it a little bit wider, and generally works out. You can see in the bottom that black dirt, well, that's topsoil. They buried the fucking topsoil when they built this housing subdivision. Seems to be a pretty common practice here in Manitoba. They always take shortcuts like that. They even built up the last few inches here with what appears to be topsoil. They might try and tell you it's black clay, but if it's black, then it's topsoil. So you can see there's a little bit of frost here, but because the surface is really dry, like we haven't had any rain since, I don't know, probably sometime in October. So the top few inches of ground, almost to a foot deep, are really dry, which is kind of nice for us for once, because otherwise it's always wet here in Manitoba. Got shit over making some videos like this a couple of years ago because Manitoba Hydro didn't like it. I was on a hydro crew and they're all looking for somebody to backstab, but I'm not working for Hydro on this. I'm working for a different company. I just want to post a few videos like this because it's kind of interesting how it all goes together, but some people got to fuss and fart around and bitch and moan about everything, so if it goes on the air, I hope it works out good. And I really like doing this kind of work for the most part. I used to do sewer and water years ago when I lived in Edmonton, and that was pretty interesting, but it's only summertime work out there. If I can find something that goes through the winter, then I'm a little more keen to do it. I want to show you guys how you saw in the past, I showed a video on how mechanical wedge couplers work and how fucking stupid they are. Only advantage is that they give you a decent curl force. Now, I don't like these quick couplers as much as some of the other ones I've used. First of all, the bucket comes off a little bit too easy. And then the back part of the coupler sticks out, so if I gotta go right up to the back of the trench, then you can see all the mud on the back of it, and then you end up pounding into the back of the trench sort of thing. Possibly, you know, at some point you could eventually damage it if you did hard enough, I suppose. But I'm not that bad. But it's a nice feature to have, because once the frost really starts coming in, I'm going to have to switch to and from the ripper. Be going back and forth almost kind of thing, and this never loosens up. Well, I've heard they can, but I've never done it myself. But it doesn't loosen up like those mechanical ones do. Mechanical ones have those two bolts and all that vibrating from ripping and all that will eventually cause the bolts to loosen up, and unless you've got like a 3/4 inch drive impact wrench to tighten them up. There's a number of companies here in Canada that build these wedge lock systems, and none of them are compatible with each other, which is ridiculous, whereas a pin grabber, by and large, they are compatible with each other. So you can just go from one manufacturer's bucket to another in theory, because it takes up for differences in pin spread, and I think even in pin size, but don't quote me on that. Whereas with these wedge couplers, everybody has their own sort of design on the same, basically the same principle, and you can't go from one to the other, and that's kind of stupid. So if you trade off a machine and you want to go to a different make, then you got to trade off all your buckets, even if, let's say, you got some custom made buckets. I know in the UK and that, and Australia and those places, you guys use more of that pin grabber style. At least that's what we call them here, and that's what they call them in the US, is the pin grabber. It's basically what it does. But they do have them here, and there are several companies I know of in the area that use them, but it's been taking people a while to pick up on them. Don't like these narrow buckets, mud sticks in them too bad, or too much. Fucking pit run in here. Quite often in this area, certain things I'll use pit run gravel for backfill, and in some places it's got more rocks than it does sand, and other places it's got more sand than rocks, and in this particular place I've got more rocks than sand. But anyway, that's good. I'll talk to you later.